We'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Well, guys, we're so glad you could join us tonight. Super duper casual. So tonight we're going to run a class called The Game of Money. I just like the idea of game. It makes it not feel so heavy. There's so much emotionality um, behind money. Um, I'm Greg. I work with the Cowart team. We're a group of 14 people all working together to help families buy homes. We believe you can get a mortgage anywhere, and in some ways, mortgage is the easiest part of what we do. We really believe in the value of education and building wealth. Very few people have financial advisors, and as we get to talk to people, we get to see all of their different parts of their finances. It really gives us an opportunity to help people not only buy a home, but really help them with their money. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Tonight, we're going to just talk through some of the simple basics of building wealth through being smart with your money. A couple rules. We're going to start on time. We will be done at 6:45. If you need to come and go, don't sweat it. Feel free to join. You don't need to turn your camera on. I will break for questions at least 2 or 3 times. If I don't get any interaction, no big deal. But love to stop and just get any input or questions that you have. We're going to keep it real basic tonight. On the right is one of my favorite little books, All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And in some ways, building wealth is about doing all the stuff we know, learning how to say no to things and being disciplined and saving money a little bit at a time. And so a lot of this stuff is unfortunately very simple, but sometimes the simplest things are the hardest to execute on. And you'll see me a lot, guys, talk about just making progress, just sitting down once and working on money, just saving a little bit. Um, I have one quick story for you. I had a grandmother who died at a young age. She had cancer, and she was a secretary for the federal government in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was down there with my parents, and I mean, she was not a high income lady, but she was Depression era. Anyway, sure enough, my dad, who was her only child, found out that she had over, and this was like in the 90s, she had over a $1.5 million saved just by being frugal with her money. So a lot of times earning wealth and gaining wealth is just about doing the right thing over time. Today, we're going to hit budgeting, where to invest, how to save, a little bit about how credit scores work, what debt to pay off, what not to pay off, how retirement works, what kind of insurance you need to get, should you get insurance, and then we'll do a quick review on all these things that we cover. I like to say if money was easy, everyone would be doing it. It's not easy, and it's not easy because it takes these following traits. You got to be disciplined. You got to learn to say no, which is hard. Have self-control. You got to be patient with yourself because, like playing an instrument, like I love thinking about picking up a violin. If I had to pick up a violin and start playing it, I would probably sound pretty bad if anyone has been around someone learning a musical instrument for about 6 months. Money's the same way. You're not going to see a lot of results real quickly, but it is working and you are putting in time and it is gaining momentum. You need to have good advice and good counsel. I think that's so lacking. Our colleges, our high schools, our elementary schools don't do a really good job of teaching the game of money. And unless you're born into a family where it's talked about, you don't know. Um, Time blocking. You've got to actually spend some time to work on this. We're all so busy and we all don't want to do things we don't want to do. So, when is a good time for you to work on money? For me, it's Saturday mornings. I kind of get to a quiet place. I'll sit down and work on my money. And guys, keep it simple, stupid is that kiss. Just start somewhere. Just get better every month. Just get started. The funny thing I love about money is you don't need a college degree. You don't need to be smart. You don't need rich parents. You don't need to be born in the right part of town. It all helps. Look, if you have those things, great. And you don't even need to make a big income to win at the game of money. You just need to have these other traits listed above. it's worth talking about it. If I'm going to talk to you about pain, let's talk about pleasure. Money gives you freedom, flexibility, lets you have a legacy to pass on. It does give you nice things, which, by the way, won't make you happy, and everything you buy takes energy, but it is nice to have some nice things. It gives you the ability to change careers, to do things different in the future, to not work if you choose. I think most importantly, it gives you a backup plan for setbacks. Life gives everybody setbacks, and having some money and having financial wealth gives you a landing pad, kind of a pillow to fall in if you need it. And also, if you really get into money, if you don't have to worry about money, you can wake up and do some pretty cool things, which is what is your why? Money is the fuel that gives you the life you want. It is worth being disciplined. All right. Comments. It's fine if you want to chime in so far. That's me doing the cheerleader, getting the pom-poms and being like, guys, you're winning just by showing up tonight. All right. Let me show you something really quick. Every month we do a class, and last month we did a class on budgeting because the first step in the game of money is just having a budget. And if you're on our team, you have to kind of do budgets. We talk about it. So here's our website. I want to show that to you. It's just thecowerteam.com. And on our website, you just go up here to this upper right, resources. You're going to see our Budget Like a Boss seminar, which we just did literally last month. Everything you need to know is here. Here's what it looks like. There's a guide, instructions. The entire PowerPoint is listed here on the Budget Like a Boss. And then I also, let me show this to you. I think you can see my screen. Let me know if you can't. We give you a budget to use. This is the budget we use on our team. It looks a little confusing right now, but it's not. And we give you a guide to it. Furthermore, with budgeting, we also have a podcast, which is kind of cool. Here it is. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, and there it is, Budget Like a Boss. It's 36 minutes, and I walk you through how to budget. So between the podcast, the budget, the guides, we're giving you everything you need to get started with budgeting. And a budget is the cornerstone of wealth building. So right there, and I'm going to send you this PowerPoint right there on our website is everything you need to get started. You know, we were surprised that as we help people with budgets, that it's hard to find good ones online. They're just not there. So we're going to give you everything you need to get started with budgeting. And without knowing where your money's going, it's hard to build wealth and win at the game of money. How often do you need to work on your budget? Well, you just need to work on it twice a month, just twice a month. And typically just for an hour, some maybe an hour and a half. But if you can set aside an hour and a half twice a month, that's all you need to get started with budgeting. And it does get easier every month, but we do show you the way. All right, I love this slide. This is, well, Greg, in general, what are the rules about money? Typically, and we're going to show you a real life example, you want to put 50% towards what you need, 30% towards what you want, and 20% towards savings. Now, with inflation, there's a little argument that you should go 60% towards needs and 10% towards savings. But remember, the average American, and we taught this in budgeting, 70% of Americans can't come up with $1,000 for an emergency. So if you're saving 10% towards savings, you're doing great by me. So this is a great guide, and we'll just show you what that looks like. So if you live with two people and each person makes 50 grand, we'll talk about this later, that's 100 grand, but you don't get to keep 100 grand. The government's going to take at least 30%. So if you gross 100 grand, you're going to net 70. And just think this through with your own life. If you're netting 70 or taking home 70 a year, you're taking home $5,800 a month. All right, well, using this principle, what would that look like? It gives you about $3,000 for your needs, car loan, student loan, house payment, groceries. I don't know what else you could think of. Pet food probably is a need if you really love your pets. Medical, but a lot of people's medical comes out of their paycheck. 30% for wants, clothes, restaurant, travel, vacation, home improvement, something that you want but you don't need. And then this would have you putting 20%. If you made 100 grand, that's $1,000 a month you would be putting towards savings. Even if you did 10%, that's $500 a month. And after 2 months, you would have more money than 70% of Americans. Savings in this country is that low. Again, if you can't make 50-30-20 work, 60-30-10 works great. And even on our budget, I've actually thought about this. You could even go through and color which items are wants, needs, or savings, just to kind of see what that looks like too. Any questions or feedback on this concept of the, anyone heard this before, the 50-30-20 guide?
I have.
It's tough. Like, well, what, Jesse, as we help people buy homes, we get a lot of, well, how much house can I afford? And the
I
answer,
heard that right before this. Yeah, she said,
yeah, I don't
how
know.
much should I be spending? Because she didn't know.
Yeah, it depends upon what your other debts are. I mean, if you have $2,000 auto loans, that's going to really cut into how much you could afford to spend on a house. But I think people do like a guide, and 50-30-20 is helpful. All right, let's talk about where to save your money. And I'm going to give you 2 slides. First, I'm going to talk to you about the concepts of where to save. And some of you hopefully have done some of these, but if you haven't, just start on wherever one's first. And the next slide is telling you in order what to do with your money. So here we go. First, be better than 70% of Americans. Walk around the mall or the grocery store and look at 7 people and be like, I'm better than you financially, because 7 people do not have $1,000 in an emergency. That's first. Just open a side account, attach it to your spending account, your checking account, and put $1,000 in there. And even if that's all you do this year, you're better off than 70% of Americans, which is a staggering statistic. And again, you're going to link that to your spending account eventually. All right, next, after you've done that, you're going to open a second account, generally free to open accounts with most banks. And you're going to try to get $1,000, sorry, 1 month of your survival number in there. Let me tell you what a survival number is. If you take a look at the screen, we actually have a column called survival number. And this is basically your needs. This isn't your wants. This is if it went bad and your boss said, guess what, you're fired tomorrow, what you'd have to spend every month. Clothing, it's not in here. Tires, car tires, not in here unless your tires are totally flat. Made to help vacuum your house, not in here. Restaurants, not in here. Typically, we're seeing people who have a survival number anywhere between $3,000 and $7,000 a month, just depending upon the family and how much their debt is. So if it costs you $5,000 a month just to run the basics of your house, your survival number would be $5,000. So the second thing you do is work to save $5,000. Well, what about paying off debt? Nope, don't do it. First, give yourself a cushion. Give yourself a landing pad. Next thing you're going to do is take advantage of any 401k match. A 401k is just a retirement account. It's a fancy word for retirement account. If you work for a state, it's called a 403b. And most employers have a match, not all. And all that means is if you put in $1,000 over the course of a year, we'll match it with $1,000. And the reason this is the third thing on this list is because you're crazy not to do it, because everything you put in is doubled. And 401ks come out before taxes. So instead of putting in $1,000 and have it really being 700 because of taxes, a 401k, your 1,000 you put in becomes 2,000. It doubles. And it's pre-tax. Absolutely, at least at minimum, do the match. And if you don't know, talk to your coworkers or your boss. Next, work to get towards 3 months of survival. So if your survival number is $4,000, work to get towards 3 times 4 or $12,000. Once you get there, now you can start investing your money. But my advice and the way we teach money is to not start saving until you have at least 3 months of survival numbers saved up. All right, Greg, I did it. It took me a year. It took me 2 months, wherever you are in your journey. What do I do next? The next thing you're going to do, if you look at your screen, is you're going to put your money in a no load S&P 500 index fund. Why? What the heck is that? It's the 500 largest companies in our country, all grouped together in one fund. So if you buy this one bucket of money, you buy a bit of all 500. And what's so funny about the S&P index fund, you can see there, I just looked today, it's up 11% this year. And by the way, a good return or a typical return is about 4 or 5%. Is that financial advisors, money people, everybody struggles to beat the steady S&P 500. It's just a press it and forget it type of place to put your money. You can't go wrong. It's incredible over time how consistent it's been. And you're going to go to Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, Vanguard. They all have them. It's just a S&P no load or no fee, S&P 500. And once you've got 3 months in your survival number saved in an account, you're going to not spend it. You're going to forget about it. Now you can start investing here. Well, Greg, should I buy Apple stock? Nope, don't. Just do this. Keep it simple, stupid. Just basically win by not losing. And if you buy all 500 companies, you do well. And we can start to talk about compounding interest. So first, emergency fund. Second, saving 1 month of survival. Third, paying off high interest credit cards. This slide, which you'll have, is the order you go in. Credit cards typically right now, guys, other than little teaser intros, are about 20%. They're a killer. They're the worst. And right now, people's debts are pretty high. So working to pay off credit cards, third. Fourth would be the 401k. Fifth is getting to 3 months survival. Sixth, you can start to pay off other loans. Let's say you have like a consumer loan at 10%. Now you could start to pay it off. Here we get a little flexible, and then you're starting to put money in the S&P 500. But here's the cool thing. As you pay off debt, if you make $5K a month you bring home, every debt you pay off, more of that money can now go to savings. And that's how you win. You squish your debt over time, you keep hammering a small amount of savings, and you let it grow. And then you just stay alive and get old and count your money. All right, questions so far on the order. Any surprises here? This is the biggest problem, is that people start reading all this fancy advice. Just keep it simple, stupid, and just follow this order and you're going to get it right.
Hey, Greg, I got a question.
What you got, Ms. Allison?
That 1 month survival number, that's in a separate account, and then we don't touch it, we don't invest it, it's just sitting there waiting to be used.
That's right. That money is just sitting there in a savings account. It's 1 month of your survival, and we don't plan on using it. In the budget class, we teach that's there for your overdraft in case you overspend 1 month, but it always sits there. And by the way, the same is true of your survival number. I recently had my survival number dip under because I had some unexpected items come up. The next month, the month after that, I got to get it back up to 3 months. I'm in a real stressful job. It's a commission job here helping people buy homes, and things come and go. But I'll tell you, when you've got 3 months survival in the bank, you're a lot less stressed about the little things that come up in life. And that's the key. This is all about also mental health and being disciplined and getting your money in order so you can, not worry as much. The stress of not having money in your bank account. I mean, how many people are checking their phones and are living paycheck to paycheck and are bouncing things constantly? Just through some discipline in these basics, can have just a better quality of life. All right, compounding interest. Hopefully you know about this, but it's crazy. Look at the right. This is crazy. What if you, by age 22, this is a little unrealistic, but still, on the red on the right, what if you could save 10 grand, mow grass, babysit, and never ever put another dime in after 22. If you could get 10% in the market, and the S&P, it's almost, there's times it's there. By age 40, 20 years later, pretty much, your 10 grand would have turned into $452,000. It's crazy. And that's the power of compounding interest. And this is why the rich stay rich, because they make money off their money. And the poor stay poor, and not poor like they don't have an education, but poor as in they're not disciplined. And the poor stay poor because the game of money is compounding interest. Now, on the left, I have where to put your money first. So a couple different places, but you're going to notice I have buying a house as the second item, because houses, just like compounding interest, go up in value over time. Here's another crazy statistic on compounding interest, why it's so important to start with your savings now, why starting early matters. Investor one started at 25 and only put in 5 grand a year for 10 years. At 35, they quit. They never put another dime in. So only save 5 grand a year, which, by the way, if you made $50,000 bring home, 5 grand is 10%. So it fits the 50-30-20 model. At age 65, they would have $800,000. You see the blue line. What's nuts is investor two started at 35, 10 years later, put the same amount of money in, but didn't put $5,000 in for 10 years. They put 5 grand in a month for 30 years. And still, by the same age, they came up $170,000 short. Again, the investor one started at 25 and only put in 5 grand for 10 years. Investor two started 10 years later and put 5 grand in a row for 30 years and never made up the difference. I knew this. I didn't have the discipline at a young age. I look back and think, what could my wealth have done if I would have started? So, if you know someone who's in their teens or 20s, the importance of just putting some money aside and the discipline of doing that just makes such a difference in wealth building over time. Any questions on compounding interest? All right, let's talk about financial advisors. Should you hire a financial advisor? The answer is no. Unless you have somewhere between 50 to 250 saved, and unless you have the ability to put aside at least $1,000 a month, I don't believe you should hire a financial advisor. How much do they charge? Typically, they charge 1% of the money you have with them a year. So if you have $1 million, they charge 10 grand a year to help manage your money. And they give you a lot of great advice, but unless you have saved a good amount of money, have a higher net worth, and are complex, I don't believe it's the right decision. And I think a true financial advisor would tell you that. At the bottom, you're going to see that you can hire financial advisors for a fee. Dear financial advisor, I'd like to pay you $500 an hour and get 2 hours of your time. I'm fine with that. If you do want to hire a financial advisor, you're looking for something called CFP, that's their certification. You want them to be fee-based. And there's this word called fiduciary, which means legally they can't do things that are good for them and not good for you. So the word CFP, fiduciary, and have a fee-based, if they could be recommended, that's great. If you need somebody, give me or my team a call. We know some good folks. But for right now, if you keep it simple, stupid, and follow the game of money and just try to work at being disciplined and use some of the other resources out there, there's no need. And I wrote these down. These are my favorite money podcasts. And when you get dressed, work in the yard, go take a walk around the block, there's so much great information out there, free information. I think until probably you get up to $500,000, probably you just let the S&P 500 work for you. And we'll talk about buckets of money, but I don't think you would want to hire a financial advisor. They're expensive. Now, for 1%, they're going to get you a better return. You're not going to earn 5% on your money. You may earn 15%. So this is the other way the wealthy stay wealthy, is they hire and pay people who understand the game of money at the high level. Remember, this is just simple level game of money, and those people do get them higher returns, and those higher returns make them even more wealthy. Well, quick, we'll talk about buckets. Someone smarter than me told me about buckets. Greg, don't just put all your money in Apple stock. Don't put all your money in the house. Don't put all your money in crypto. Put a little bit of money everywhere. Just dribble money in different buckets and fill up the different buckets. And this is the way you gain wealth over time, because all the buckets kind of do this. And if real estate's not doing great, cool, stock market might be. If stock market's not doing well, maybe my CD is doing well. Also remember that investing in yourself is an investment. Taking a class, going on a trip, getting an extra degree. These are investments in the most important thing, which is you and your higher ability, what someone's willing to pay you. Also put in here that you could take a risk. Let's say you know a lot about land. Let's say you know a lot about paintings. This is a bucket as well, and you can have a bucket that you're a little riskier in. But which is the best way to go? Should I put my money in the stock market or real estate? The answer is both. By using this concept, you minimize risk. All right. Let's see, we're talking about where to put your money. Let's do one more. Yeah, and then we'll go into the worst part, which is debt. Real estate. Check this out, guys. I work in this field and I own houses. I believe in real estate. Since 1942, which is World War II, on average, houses have gone up 5%. On average, nationally, 5%. Houses in Richmond are now almost 400 grand. That means every house you drive by on average will go up at least 5% this year. Look at that number. That's a $20,000 gain to everybody's net worth in the year 2024 just because they own a house. Don't believe it? Go look up houses 20 years ago and look what they were worth. Half of what they're worth today. Go back 10 years ago. You know, they're worth 30% more right now than they were. I have homes I bought just 5 years ago and they're worth, you know, they were 200,000. Now they're worth 350. So at the bottom is a great quote that a realtor I love says is, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Oh, what else? You get to live in your investment. If you buy crypto or if you buy a CD, you can't live in it. Real estate's a great investment because you also get to enjoy it. It's also tax deductible. Also, every time you make a payment, you own more of your home. And every time you improve your home, you own more of your home because the value of your home goes up. You know, we're seeing a lot of people right now struggling to buy homes because they're getting so expensive in Richmond. That's not going to stop. Our house is on fire, Richmond, in terms of how we're just starting to, I mean, guys, we saw 17% appreciation in recent years. Think about everyone who missed out on all that wealth that got gained. I'm really trying to work with my young folks that they can't wait for the crash to buy a home. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Mortgages, what happened in 08, 09 was an anomaly. In fact, house prices have only gone down 6 times nationally since 1942. If you don't own a home, the only way to own a home is to start savings or have rich relatives who give you a gift, because it does take money to get into the home ownership game, and there's no easy way around it. And the train is leaving the station, and I'm so glad that you're on this call. And I'm so glad you're being exposed to budgeting, because I wish there was an easy way, but you've just got to start saving money. And every year you wait to buy a home, the cost of the home is going up. All right, questions. We've got about 15 minutes left, a lot to hit. Anybody? All right, let's roll. Debt. There is good debt. Oh, Greg, I have bad debt, because as a mortgage people, we get to see all kinds of things. No. A mortgage is debt, but it's good debt. It goes up, you get to live in it, it's tax deductible. There's other good debt. Student loan debt can be good. The problem in our country is that we've got too many people taking out student loans for jobs that pay 13 bucks an hour. That is not good debt. That's not a good investment. But there are a lot of fields, and investing in yourself is relatively good debt. Auto loans, well, of the good debt, it's probably not the best, but homes, I mean, cars go down over time in value, but you need it to move around. You need it to go to the grocery store in our country. You need it to go to work. And so if you got to have an auto loan, it's not the end of the world. But the ones up top, credit card debt, installment loans, consumer loans, payday loans. Has anyone ever heard of BNPL? A BNPL, you see it right there, is buy now, pay later. This is crazy, but we're borrowing so much money. We're now seeing people who go into the store and do buy now, pay later, not on furniture, because they've been doing that for a while, but are doing buy now, pay laters on silly things like clothes or a watch. BNPL lending has gone through the roof, and this is typically that kind of no payment for 3 months. But what you don't see is the interest rate's 28% out of after that. And there's a lot of concern now with incomes being lower and inflation that if you don't have self-discipline, you're gonna go ahead and say yes to things you shouldn't and really enter this bad debt. And here's what debt to pay off first. Start off with the high interest credit cards, then the high interest consumer loans, then the lower interest credit cards, then the auto loans. The student loans are last to pay off. And many people would argue you don't work to pay off your mortgage, you just let it pay off over time. A lot of people, and I agree with this, believe that money's better spent by investing because that money grows over time and your house is going to grow in value whether you have a mortgage on it or not. So you'll notice paying off the mortgage didn't even make the list, but this would be the list of what to pay off first. And we teach what to pay off by teaching this concept. And you may have heard this of a debt snowball. I'll teach you 2 of them. A debt snowball, I'll read this for you. You write your debts down. So you got 10 credit cards, smallest amount owed to the largest amount. You start with the smallest, everything else you make the minimum payment. On the smallest, you throw as much money as you can. You do not spread what you're paying. You put all your focus on your smallest debt. And over a couple months, you pay it off. Now you take all the money that you were spending. Let's say you're spending $300 a month on that card. Now you move that $300 to the next card, and that's called the debt snowball. Doesn't matter who you talk about. This is the way you pay off debt. You budget, you take control of your money, and you start to debt snowball, starting with the smallest debt first. One other example, I don't like this one as much. We've talked about it on our mortgage team, is the debt avalanche. Same thing as the debt snowball, only you start not with the smallest debt, you start with whichever one has the highest interest. The reason we don't like it is, what if your highest interest card's 10 grand? And what if you can only save $300 a month? How motivating is that? We like the debt snowball because even though if you're counting pennies, the debt avalanche is probably smarter. The psychology of the debt snowball of paying things off makes it the way to go. So we talked about what debt to pay off and how to pay it off. We talked about good debt and we talked about bad debt. We've talked about savings so far. Let's go ahead and move into credit score. You guys, I got to tell you, I'm in the business of lending. This whole credit score stuff's going nuts. Every other commercial's about credit score. And really, credit score is really emotional, and they're all trying to sell us subscriptions and stuff. The truth is, credit scoring is not as big of a deal as people make it. If you're getting a mortgage, it's a big deal. But auto loans, they give auto loans regardless of your credit score. And credit cards, you can get regardless pretty much of what your credit score is as well. And credit scoring is really confusing. Feel free to look at this. But the truth is, the average score in the United States is about a 660. And it's so confusing that I would just rather people not spend that much time worrying about it. So there's 3 different models: Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. So each of them do different credit scores. And then there's different scoring models, or almost scoring families. There's Fair Isaac, called FICO. There's Vantage. There's the CE model. And depending upon who's pulling your credit, there's different factors. So if I check your credit and a car dealer checks your credit on the same day, you're going to get different scores even within the same bureaus. All of this free credit associated with your credit card, that's a different model too. So Greg, well, what is my credit score? I don't know. It depends. What are you looking for? A credit card? What bureau are they using? What model are they using? It's just too much. Look, if you want to talk about credit and get in the weeds, I feel like you're a lot better off worrying about other things. If you do have credit issues, fixing credit is an art. And we do have someone local who's a nonprofit that we like. Give me or anyone else on the call and we'll give you their name. Fixing credit is tough. All right, here we go. Everyone's going to hate me now. Credit cards. Should I have them? Yeah, the answer is no. What we believe about the game of money is I think you should have two. You don't need many to get a credit score. We just showed you in the prior slide how much credit you have is just one factor. Just having and paying on time is your biggest factor, and then keeping your balance as low as the other factor. Nowhere in here does it say having a crap ton of credit cards. So the idea that you need more cards is just not true. At best, have two. You need them to rent a car, and they're nice to have in an emergency. But if you have a 3-month survival number, you really don't need it for that. So try to stick with 2 cards. If you want a pro tip, call them up and say, no, I don't want 20K on my card, just 5. They will do that. They will lower it if you're tempted. But yeah, you don't need a lot of credit cards to have a good score. Well, Greg, what if I like to earn 3 points? If I talk to 100 people, there's maybe 5 that have the discipline to pay off the card every month. But even then, I'm not a fan because that's not true budgeting. If you're somebody that truly budgets and runs it through the card and pays it off every month and spends a lot of money, call me, you're the exception. But in general, it's not worth it. It's just an excuse to make you feel better, and you're going to carry a balance like most families do. And it's just not worth it. All right. Anyone want to get mad at me because I'm telling you to cut up your Capital One card and you get bonus points? It's just too easy to swipe. All right, 10 minutes left here. Actually, I take that back, about 5. Life insurance, get it. Tragedies happen all around. Funeral cost, paying the bills, paying off debt of someone who died, helping run a business, paying for kids. It's worth it. What kind of life insurance should you get? You should get term life. You should not buy whole life. Whole life costs 10 to 20% more, 10 to 20 times more. It does cover you for your whole life. It is an investment. It does have cash value, and I know all about it. If you're rich, buy it. But if you're not, stay away. Buy the simple product. It's called Term Life. It's very inexpensive. I'll show you in a second. It covers you for about 20 years. And if you die, people are going to be given anywhere between 100 to $1 million. How much is it, Greg? It's not much. $1 million is about $50 per month. 500,000, it's only about $20 per month. And by the way, get it early. Get it in your 20s, because as you age, you won't be as healthy and it gets more expensive. But I do believe in term life. That is, if you died and there'd be someone who had to be taken care of. If you're 20 and you're single, you don't need term life. But whole life is a high commission product. It's very complex. And unless you're more wealthy, I would advise you to stay away from it. Wills and trusts, same thing. If no one really cares about you, if you die and you don't have anyone to take care of, you don't need one. But if you do have children, a spouse, assets, a home you own, you need to set up a will. Will's the simple way. Trust is more complex. How much is it going to cost? A will's usually going to cost anywhere from $100 to $500. I like people I can talk to, but you can get one online. It's just I hear people messing them up. A trust is going to run anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000. It's more confusing. It's basically a fancy will. And trusts even have wills within them. All right, let's wrap up. I like to kind of talk about ages. If you're young, 18 to 25, avoiding debt is the #1 thing you need to do. Saving money, budgeting, getting good at budgeting, and avoiding debt. These annual percentage rates really add up, and they're keeping a lot of people really in a bad position, especially young people who are at a lower income. If you're in this middle range, 25 through 35, you need to focus on saving money to buy a house. All these people need to have a budget and be doing a monthly budget. Can you believe a child costs $14,000 a year? They happen around this time in life. And that means you're going to want to really be focusing on being disciplined with your budgeting and with trying to be sure you're investing in yourself to be sure that you are being paid more over time. Get your will at this stage of life, get your term life insurance, and just trying to be sure you're saving slowly. The next stage is this middle adulthood. This is kind of 35 to 55. This is your prime time to be earning at this age. Please put money in yourself before you put it in your kids. Retirement savings before college savings. Kids can take out loans, they can go to college, they can pay it back, but you must put your own mask on before you take care of your kids. This could be a time to hire a financial advisor if you have enough, but this is your decade where you're doing max earnings. Let's wrap it up. A couple more slides here to finish up. We aren't going to get to this, but it is interesting. You're paying anywhere between 30 to 40% of your income in taxes. I have a little slide here, and we're going to send this to you on how much really goes to taxes, because I don't think people really understand how taxes work. So we got some good slides there. So we covered a lot today. We do have another class. Our next class in June, it's 6:45, is going to be how to buy a home in 2024. Because every year, how to buy a home changes. Strategies, tips, how to come up with a plan from those of us who are on the front lines. This will be, we usually run these on a Thursday at 6 o'clock. Pop on in. If you own a home, we're going to have a little bit on buying your first investment property. If you don't own a home, we're going to have a little bit on that. But also, a lot of people own homes but want to move, and that's really tricky in this model, in this time we're in right now. And so we'll give you a lot of great tips in this 45-minute class, whether it's you or someone else who wants to buy a home. All right, guys, that is it. You are better for being here. Just talking about the game of money. We've got your email addresses. We're going to send the slide out. We're going to send a recording of this out if you want to send it to someone you love. If you know someone looking to buy a home, we want to talk to anyone thinking of buying a home in the next 12 months. If you're thinking of buying a home in the next 12 months, we want to talk to you. We want to coach you up. We want to counsel you. We want to give you advice. If you got to get a mortgage, you might as well get one from someone local who's going to teach you all this stuff. So we appreciate anyone you know that's going to buy a home. Sending them our way. Otherwise, love to get your feedback. Feel free to ask me questions. Our website's right there, cowerteam.com. You can also email us, and we'll send this out to you tomorrow. Thanks for coming, y'all. Have a great night.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye-bye.